leptospirosis, Vars disease, hantavirus, the disease Gene Hackman's wife reportedly died of, and the plague, otherwise known as the Black Death. I'm sure you've heard of that one. It caused a global pandemic in which somewhere between 25 to 75 million people in Europe alone died. And that was around about half the continent's population. These are just some of the diseases carried by rats, and the reason why the government needs to be taking the situation in Birmingham more seriously. The bin strike has been going on since the 11th of March, although discontent began in January. Refuse workers downed tools over pay. The city eventually declared a major incident, and currently, as we speak, about 17,000 tonnes of rubbish lie uncollected. Rubbish has been piling high. Look, we've been through one global pandemic, and I don't fancy another one. And all of this could be coming to a street near you. Imagine that. Now, I'm not saying that we are on the brink of a global pandemic, but with reports that there are rats the size of cats, the size of dogs, the size of sheep running around, what will it take for the political classes to get serious about the situation in Birmingham? In the meantime, apparently Birmingham Labour councils have been piling up the freebies. You couldn't make this up. Deputy Leader Sharon Thompson apparently being given football tickets worth 300 quid and tickets to various ballets. She wasn't alone. Councillor Simon Sulman received a free meal. All of this going on whilst the people of Birmingham are suffering. From where I'm standing, Labour-run bankrupt Birmingham Council, who pays his boss, Joanne Roney, $295k, seemed to be doing very little to protect its residents from the potential of a health emergency, where the only people benefiting are the pest controllers. Claire Keough, the national officer for the local government at Unite, she's part of the union that the striking refugees are part of. Its members are angry as to how this is all playing out, and there's massive potential that this will escalate. Today, it was reported that finally Angela Rayner has met with union bosses. It's only taken them about 7 weeks, and the union has warned that they, could roll this out across the country. Imagine that. So while Sir Keir Starmer and his clan posture on the international stage about tariffs, which right now he can do very little to influence, if any one of those aforementioned diseases, and in particular the plague, were to rear their ugly heads, tariffs will pale into insignificance. We are at a tipping point, pardon the pun. Time to bring in the army to help clear up the rubbish. Maybe they could start with the council first. Right, first though, joining me, health editor Lucy Johnston. Lucy, it's a bit of a problem, is it, the bin situation? Seriously, why are the politicians talking about everything else and not realising that actually rats carry some serious diseases, that hantavirus is rather nasty, and that is airborne as well. So why are we not hearing any real progress in terms of clearing the rubbish? They can carry on talking, but they need to clear the rubbish.
There's 17,000 tonnes worth of rubbish, isn't there, up in Birmingham? It is a huge problem. And not only is there a risk from salmonella, is the sound any good? No?
Sorry, it's just I'm asking them to turn it up, actually. I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah,
but you got the cue and they didn't.
Yeah. Not only is it huge risk to health, but also, so there's salmonella, there's hantavirus, there's leptospirosis, which is very nasty, actually. It can affect the liver and the kidney and cause jaundice. And if not treated early, it can be very serious. But there's also a quality of life aspect, the smell, the odour, the mess. There are people reported up in Birmingham, people on mobility scooters, people who are blind, they can't access the pavements easily. There is obviously the gases that come from that waste is a greenhouse gas, it's methane, which we're not meant to be meant to be minimising that. And not only that, but the whole backdrop, there's been increased rates of council tax in Birmingham, 7.5% this year, 10% last year. This is happening across the country. And across the country, bin services are being cut and other services are being cut, while people the people in those councils are having to pay more for less. So it's no surprise that people are getting disgruntled. They're not having to experience that. They're not paying any less. They're paying more for less. Meanwhile, the councils themselves are complaining that they just don't have enough. I think Birmingham declared itself effectively bankrupt last year.
3 billion. 3 billion.
Yes. So they're struggling. They've got an aging population. So there is a sort of, it's like an intractable problem. But meanwhile, this rubbish is piling up and it's causing not only a risk, but a huge sort of problem. It's actually really annoying. And I know some of the people working in garages up there are saying that the rats are getting into cars and chewing through cables. And so people are bringing their cars in, which are being broken. And so, it's a problem everywhere. It's an absolute nuisance. And if those rats sort of embed in and if they really populate, there's much more of a risk that they'll get into restaurants and food chains and spread kind of their feces and their diseases through there and causing more risk to humans. So it does need to be tackled, and pretty soon.
Well, it just seems that they keep saying, we're in talks. OK, you can keep talking, but you need to clear up the rubbish, because we've already seen one pandemic, and that was caused by, I believe, a lab leak. That's what I thought from the very start. But again, that's something getting into the general public. It doesn't take much for one of these diseases to become prevalent for there to be a problem. And if you have an infestation of rodents, as we know, that's very, very, very difficult to tackle. So the longer they leave it, apparently it's every 3 weeks they mate, and they have about a dozen new each. They have a dozen new rats. And every 3 weeks they're constantly procreating, and there's more and more and more of them, with nothing really happening. A few rat catchers are saying that actually we could end up inundated. We could end up starting some sort of global pandemic if we're not careful. And that might sound dramatic, but how did the Black Death start? That started with rats.
Well, I mean, I don't know that we've got the fleas carrying those diseases, the plague diseases, on the rats right now. And I'm not sure whether there's any novel viruses on those creatures. But of course, there is always the risk of disease, and crucially, the quality of life for those people in Birmingham must be pretty miserable. You've got the smell, you've got the mate, and it's really stressful for people. And there are people that don't have big front gardens to their houses. There are people that don't have wheelie bins. So people sitting kind of that perhaps maybe there's a disconnect between some of the politicians and some of the people that are actually living in these conditions or these situations, not realizing that actually living like this is no way to live, really.
Well, also, in the more affluent areas, what it is they have cars big enough to take the rubbish to the tips. So they're taking the rubbish to the tips. So it's not every single street. But then, again, it doesn't take every single street to suddenly for there to become a problem. It just takes a lot of streets to have an issue with rats and disease and things, and that can spread. I don't think people are taking this seriously enough. And I know it is the fleas that infected the rats and so on and so forth, which caused the Black Death initially. But we don't know whether that capability still exists, and if we allow it to flourish in that way, then I can bet you bottom dollar that we will find out soon enough. Lucy Johnson, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. That's Lucy Johnson. She's our health editor here at GB News. Well, in response to the gifts to councillors, because obviously that was part of it, I mentioned that in my niggle. A Birmingham City Council spokesperson insisted that the gifts were related to their work in the authority. And the leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton, said, I respect the right to strike and protect. However, actions on the picket line must be lawful, and sadly the behaviour of some now means we are seeing a significant impact on residents and the city's environments. And that is obviously referring to the fact that a lot of the bin workers are now obstructing the workers who are sent to try and help clear up the problem. A Minister of State for Local Government and English Devolution, Jim McMahon, has said it is in the interests of all parties, and more importantly Birmingham's residents, that this strike must be brought to a close, with all parties redoubling efforts to get around the table and to find a solution.